Today is a real treat, and for me, I'm incredibly excited about this particular panel. So for those who don't know, my typical spiel about the Middleton Center is that the Middleton Center for Race, Citizenship, and Justice is named after one of Mizzou's favorite sons, Michael A. Middleton, is a dual Mizzou. He graduated from the undergraduate school here, as well as the law school, and has held numerous positions throughout the university, most recently leaving us as the interim president several years ago. The center is a cross-disciplinary research institute that was forged in the flames of protest of 2015 and is now an institute that engages in critical examination, investigation of issues around race, citizenship, and justice. And this panel is one of those types of presentations. Today, I'm really overjoyed about this particular panel. But before I announce to sort of introduce our speaker, I want to thank those out there who have contributed to the center, who have donated, and who have assisted us in being where we are and continuing to do the work that we do. And for those of you who have not yet, you can take an opportunity to do that as well, because it keeps us going. And so I thank you very much. Before I tell you the brief history of our invited guest, Noah Stewart, I've got to sort of offer a little bit of a brief anecdote. So Noah Stewart and I grew up in the same apartment building in New York City. He actually lived down the hall from me. And his mother, as all moms do, wanted him to go out and be more active. At the time, I was a coach of a soccer team, and Noah came out and played soccer for me. He kicked the ball around. He was out there in the field. He really wasn't interested, and thank God he was not. And thank God he actually found his true passion, because I would really hate to be the one who would deprive the world of his voice, quite frankly. And so I'm so excited that he chose a totally different route and did not succumb to being pressured into being an athlete by having this other guy down the hall coach him in soccer. So let me tell you a little bit about him, because I think it's really impressive. So, excuse me. Noah is lauded for his distinctive timbre, magnetic stage presence, and movie star good looks. He has become one of opera's most sought after international performers. He is especially recognized for his portrayals in the romantic Italian and French repertory, and is a frequent guest artist with major opera companies and concert halls around the world. Noah Stewart's musical development started in Harlem, where he studied classical music at the Harlem School of the Arts. At age 12, his choir teacher encouraged him to pursue a music career. He began doing voiceovers for Sesame Street and television school specials, and won first place in the New England music competition in Boston. Following graduation, he continued his education at Fiorello LaGuardia High School, and it was there that he fell in love with classical music and performed his first opera at the age of 15 years old with a full orchestra. In his senior year of high school, he was urged to audition for the Juilliard School by the legendary soprano Leoton Price. And later that year, he was accepted on scholarship. Since his training at the Juilliard School, Noah's debut album, For Decca, became a major success in the United Kingdom, topping the classical charts for 7 weeks, and earned him 2 Classic Brit Award nominations. In spring 2012, he made a critically lauded debut at Covent Garden as Hassan in Judith Weir's Misfortune, a role he premiered at the Bregenzer Festspiel in the summer of 2011. Further North American engagements include Hoffman, The Tales of Hoffman, Rodolfo, La Boheme, and Don Jose Carmen at Nashville Opera, Greenhorn, role debut in Moby Dick by Jake Heggie at Opera San Jose, Cavaradossi Tosca at Opera Birmingham, the title role of Faust at Atlanta Opera, Tamino and Rodolfo at Florentine, The Prince, A Flowering Tree at Chicago Opera Theater, and more. Outside the United States, he has sung Samson in St. Saëns, Samson at Dahlia at Festival International Classico de Merida, tenor soloist in Tippett's Pinkerton, Madame Butterfly at Covent Garden, A Child of Our Time at the Brighton Festival in England, Cavaradossi in Puccini's Tosca at Reese Opera, Don Jose at Scottish Opera. Notable orchestral appearances include the Birmingham Symphony Orchestra, Scottish Symphony Orchestra, the Royal Philharmonic, Manchester Philharmonic, the Ulster Orchestra, and Noah has performed on 3 BBC Proms concerts, as well as being named a BBC Music Ambassador and made his broadcasting debut at the Cardiff Singer of the World on the BBC. Offstage, he has been featured on PBS's Pinkalicious and Peterific as the role of an opera singer. And recent engagements include the role of Rodolfo with Northern Ireland Opera, which marked the return of live opera performances with a unique and exhilarating new production of Puccini's La Boheme, and his company debut as Cavaradossi in Puccini's Tosca with Portland Opera, and his return to Opera San Jose in Bizet's Carmen. Noah is currently and thankfully taking time with us out of his busy sort of schedule, performing and making his role debut as Tony in Bernstein's West Side Story. And so I thank Noah once again for appearing with us today and joining us.
It is my pleasure. Good afternoon. It is such an honor to be here with you all today. Thank you.
And my colleague, Stephanie Shonikin, will be introducing our other co-panelists and be doing the Q&A for the event this afternoon.
Great. Thank you, Noah. We are very excited. When David mentioned his connections with you, we were immediately convinced that we would be tapping into that connection. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. David has done an excellent introduction of Noah. I hope that you are all listening to how successful and already legendary he is, and we wanted to put out an invitation to come visit us at Mizzou, Noah, where you will find lots of wonderful people, but also in our School of Music, you will find some excellent professors and performers and scholars like myself. So I'm an ethnomusicologist. I'll talk a little bit more about myself and how I come to this topic. But for now, let me introduce you to two of the people that you would meet if you came here. So let me start with my dear colleague, Christine Seitz. Christine is the teaching professor of music. She joined the faculty at the University of Missouri in the fall of 2008, where she's director of our Show Me Opera and a member of the voice faculty. She was a member of the stage directing staff for the Apprentice Artist Program at Des Moines Metro Opera from 2006 through to 2013. She was the founding opera director for the Pine Mountain Music Festival in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, directing and producing operas there from 1992 through 2002. She has been a guest director for the University of Kentucky Opera Theater, the Florentine Opera of Milwaukee, and the list goes on and on. Christine is an established dramatic soprano herself, and she recently appeared with the Des Moines Metro Opera singing the role of Madame Larina in Tchaikovsky's Eugene Onegin. She has also sung operatic roles with the Seattle Opera, the Dallas Opera, the Madison Opera, the Los Angeles Opera, the Toledo Opera, like everywhere. Christine, right? And the list goes on. And so Christine, again, has been a really wonderful colleague of mine here. Our other panelist will be one of my favorites, my favorite student. I've never had the opportunity to teach him, but I've worked with him in other ways. Anthony Coleman Blatter is a baritone coming from the great city of St. Louis, Missouri, where they have the best barbecue, and is a senior right now working towards a BM in vocal performance and a BA in theater performance by the spring, and he will graduate in the spring of 2022 from the University of Missouri. He studies voice with Professor Stephen Tharp and is a proud member of the Show Me Opera program on campus, directed by Christine Seitz. He has served as the event coordinator for Alpha Zeta Delta chapter of the Alpha Psi Omega Honor Society and is a member of the Zeta chapter of the Phi Mu Alpha Sinfonia. Anthony recently played the roles of Tom Collins. He was amazing in Mizzou's theater department production of Rent, and Falstaff in Verdi's opera Falstaff with the Show Me Opera program. Anthony will soon play the role of Figaro in Figaro and cannot wait to continue his aspirations of the arts at Florida Atlantic University, where he has a full ride towards an MFA in acting in the fall. So there you have it. We have three wonderful panelists that will join us on the screen right now. The way this is going to run, I'm going to show some videos as we go along so that we have a sense of the scope of what we're talking about here. We want to really engage in a conversation about race and representation in opera and the ways in which we teach it and the challenges and all of it. So before we start our conversation, let me put on the screen a video of Noah doing Nessun Dorma from Puccini. So here is, if I can share my screen, we will start with Noah.
Nessun dorma, nessun dorma. Tu pura principessa, nella tua fredda stanza, guardi le stelle che tremano d'amore e di speranza. Ma il mio mistero è chiuso in me, il nome mio nessun saprà.
So, Noah, there are no words. So I think I'm going to let Christine and Anthony respond to what we just saw. Anthony, I saw the exuberance in your...
Oh, yeah. You know me, always gotta respond and react. That was just, wow, just stunning. I love Nessun Dorma so much. And soon, hopefully, we'll be able to sing it if my voice cooperates.
It's just an amazing performance, Noah. And of course, the setting is out of the realm of normal opera. This is like, American Idol times 10 or times 100. I once sang a performance of the aria from Fidelio in a big concert for New Year's Eve where there were 10,000 people at the concert, but it wasn't being televised. And it didn't have the light show and all of the other stuff with that. This is over the top. It's amazing. Congratulations. That's just so exciting to watch you do that.
Thank you so much. And congratulations to all of you for all of your work. And thank you for your work, because we need to continue the leadership in this industry. for the younger generation and the generations to come. And in that performance, I was not prepared for my career. I've been blessed to have many teachers and angels come through my path. But that performance, that was one of my first times ever doing a live telecast with orchestra. And I remember the event. I don't remember the scenes played, but for the play-by-play of the action. But it was a really tremendous experience. And thank you for playing that, really.
Yeah, there was no way I wasn't going to start with that. And I had to play it in its entirety because actually my favorite part is the smile on your face when you're done.
Yes, I was thinking I made it because in opera, if you haven't been to an opera, you have the conductor is in front of you and the orchestra is in front of you and the audience is in front of you. And so the conductor is leading you. As I'm looking at you, this is what I see if I'm on stage, he's leading you. Mm-hmm. But in this situation in concert, the conductor is behind you. And so he's literally where this picture is. And so you kind of have to guesstimate or estimate where, if you're together with the orchestra, and you can't freak out, you have to, of course, stay professional, stay in character. And you also have to just be so committed because it's live, it's not a tape. So I was really just excited that I made it through. And I was really able to convey all the emotion that I was feeling at mm-hmm. the time.
Mm-hmm. You did. And of course, I would love to ask you your opinion of Aretha Franklin when she covered it. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Yes, I have. I don't believe in, Aretha Franklin is a legend. And my family's from New Orleans, Louisiana. And I remember each Saturday, my mom would play Gladys Knight. WBLS was the radio station we listened to. So there was no such thing as of course there was a difference between classical music and jazz, but for me, it was good music. It was just good music and bad music. And what wonderful musicians and artists that I think we all admire, like Aretha Franklin, Frank Sinatra, Tony Bennett, Patti LaBelle, the list goes on, is that they're able to use their voice in a way and to tell the story that we all feel. Mm-hmm. And I think this has been, that's the big word for me, is feel. What are you feeling? Because when the audience feels something, this is when they are connected to the artist, and this is why we love our favorite artists. And so Aretha Franklin's version was amazing because I heard she never had done it, and she was feeling in Luciano Pavarotti, and she made it her own.
Sure did, yeah.
And I think that's what a great artist does.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And we will have time for questions from the audience for sure. So start putting them in the chat, Annabelle and others. We will get there. So I do want to guide us to a discussion about the ways in which we feel this music, right? So to use your term, Noah, this idea of good music versus bad music, rather than high music and low music, right? Yes. And of course, in our conservatories, in our schools of music, we have been grappling with this question for a long time. So I do want to go back there to talk about the ways in which we train. And the way I come to this is that when I came to the United States to do my PhD, my dissertation ended up being a dissertation about Camilla Williams, who was the first African-American to sign a major contract with the New York City Opera. She's number one. And she did Madame Butterfly. So of course, as David was introducing you, Noah, it took me back to my time with Camilla and everything I learned from her. Now, she signed that contract in 1946, as the first African-American to do a major role that was not written for an African-American, right? And she talks a lot about the struggles, of standing on stage with Pinkerton, like the the threats that she got in the 1940s for doing this kind of work that you are now doing so freely, Noah and Anthony, and so many other artists that Christine has helped train. So can we talk about that? Let's start with a discussion about how African Americans come to opera and what the obstacles are, what they were, what they are now. Are they still there? So let's start with Christine. Do you want to start and talk about that? And I will be playing Keith Miller, who Christine had the honor of directing at one point. Christine?
From my perspective, I've worked with a lot of African American singers. They've been in casts with me, and I've directed them. But one thing I know about our business in America is that, especially in university settings, the training is pretty specifically all about learning the European canon.
Right.
So in order to get the voice degree, and in order to pursue a career in opera, you've got to be proficient in Italian, French, and German,
Right.
along with your own language, English, and then others if you can add them to your repertoire. Excuse me. That's kind of the big one, along with musical training, you know, so that you're absolutely top drawer in musical skills. Reading the score, learning the score, memorizing the score, translating the text. Then you also have to be really good at moving and physicality on stage, which sometimes a university degree doesn't even have there. I know Anthony knows this because he's doing both degrees. He's doing a music degree and a theater degree. Well, in his theater degree, he's got classes in acting. In his music degree, a Bachelor of Music and Voice, there's nothing about that. You know, what he gets, the training of expressing in a foreign text, he gets from his voice teacher. We don't have a vocal coach on our staff at the University of Missouri. So there's no that person that, I know Noah knows what I'm talking about, that person that looks on what you're doing and analyzes every sound that comes out of your mouth and whether the musicality is, you know, shaped correctly. And that's not the voice teacher, that's the coach. There's all of these things that go into preparing for this career. It obviously is easier for somebody who's had background in it before they come to college. But on the other hand, voices don't mature until at least starting in college age and then beyond. Most voices don't mature until their 30s, especially in operatic voices. So why can't somebody add all of that skill when they come to school? And some people really do. I think the example of Keith Miller is really interesting. This is somebody who came up playing sports and ended up professional football. And loved to sing, and somebody heard him sing and said, boy, you got to do something with that instrument. And he started singing and he got involved in performing right away. He's very motivated and very structured and could learn something, even though he didn't have background in reading music and understanding what that meant. But he could sit down and learn it because he knew how to learn a playbook for a football.
Right.
And then he had this instrument that just wouldn't quit. And so he was lucky in that. And then, you know, but it's interesting. It's possible, but I think a lot of singers are denied the experience because they come to college and they don't already know a whole lot of things, right?
And it can be intimidating, right? This is all new. So we'll come back to Keith Miller.
Sure.
Anthony, Noah, what are your thoughts of the journey?
Yeah, if you don't have it beforehand, it's difficult. I came into the university singing in church choir and jazz music and things like that, and got here and wanted to do music because I love music so much. And to Noah's point, you know, doing things that you like. I heard I would hear opera sometimes, and I'm like, man, I really like that song. It wasn't the hierarchy like you guys were talking about. It's, I just really like that song. It sounds really cool to my ear, things like that. So coming to the university and stepping into, a voice studio and learning a brand new technique and how to sing this European style, right? It was definitely difficult for sure, because it's just so not what I was used to, right? And but with the training and with the stuff like that, I was able to gain the technique enough to then go, okay, now I need to go back to being myself. And that's what I think is the most important thing is it's not, I'm not going to put on this real stuffy, I'm going to sing and I'm going to do this and da 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 da, because that's not me as a person. But I mean, if the character requires it, then yeah, of course. But me as a person, I'm going to sing and feel music how I feel music, and that's the fun of it for me. You got to have fun while you're doing it, and if you're not, then why are you doing it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely, that's amazing. Absolutely, I think I agree with everything that you've both been saying. I think the tricky part in people who don't, or artists who don't have classical music as a background, is finding where you all fit in. I remember I went to LaGuardia High School, and I got into singing by an accident, really. My mom wanted me to stay out of trouble growing up in Harlem, New York. And I wanted to be an engineer. And I went and I saw it was a choir room and they were having auditions, and I saw photographs of trips that the choir would take every year to compete. And I thought, oh, like Sister Act. Remember the movie Whoopi Goldberg? I thought, oh, cool. You go to Spain, you go to California with singing. And I was an alto all through junior high school. Went to LaGuardia High School, and they laughed at me because they separated us all in voice types. And I sat in the alto section. They said, oh, no, I think you're sitting in the wrong section. You must be a tenor. And I said, okay. And I trained when I was in high school. I was a baritone and a tenor, because I think that ethnic voices usually have bigger ranges. And when you're younger, and I think this also goes for all voice types. I know, Christine, you said you were a dramatic soprano. In classical music and opera, your voice matures much later than other categories. It's not like pop singing. You see American Idol or The Voice. You can see really young contestants really going out there and singing. And in classical music, because you are using your full body, it takes longer, and you have to learn the coordination. So it's a very personal experience. You don't learn by copying necessarily. It could also be dangerous. And when I went to Juilliard, it was tricky, because when they told me that I was a tenor, I went to the library and I picked up all of the records, and CDs were just coming out. And I looked up, Black tenors, because I wanted to see someone who looked like me. And I remember there was the great, his name was Roland Hayes, which was an African-American tenor, who was at one time the highest paid tenor in the world. And people laughed at him and said he wouldn't be a success, but he was. And he didn't sing opera, but he recorded many albums of songs. And then there was the great tenor, George Shirley, who was the first African-American to sing at the Metropolitan Opera House. But other than that, I didn't see anyone who looked like me, who was the lover, who got to kiss the girl, who got the final bow. Growing up, the tenors were Pavarotti, Jose Carreras, wonderful artists, but they didn't look like me. And so I always felt a pressure to sound like them. And because there wasn't a lot of documentation of male Black singers who were tenors, I found it quite difficult to find an identity. And I think this is an issue for young students, because a lot of people, if you don't grow up singing opera, you don't know, and so you're reliant on your teachers or your vocal coaches to kind of tell you who you are. And if you don't have your team or a good coach or a voice teacher who can look out for you, it can be quite challenging to be in an environment where there is a lot of competition. And women traditionally get their voices before men. And it's almost like fruit. Not every apple is ripe at the same time. And so if you are in college and your voice isn't developed as other people, other students, you can kind of feel left out, like what you have is not special. But it is a waiting game, and the more you work at it, the better you know yourself. And I think that's one of the challenges that I definitely faced.
Wonderful. Can I ask you all to also share with us what your why classical, why Western art? For all three of you, you're all performers. You're all, you could have, with Christine, you could have gone musical theater. You could have become the next Barbara Streisand. I don't know, Christine. Or for Noah and Anthony, you could have gone, any place in Black music, right? You could have landed in, in jazz or even R&B, soul, that type of thing. So could you tell us the pull of opera? Like, what is it that pulls you in? All three of you, please.
Well, I'll jump in on that first, I guess. You can tell from my speaking voice that I have a very low speaking voice. When I was first in college, they called me a contralto, Noah, because I spoke so low. And no one really got my voice figured out while I was in school. I did an undergrad degree and a master's singing as a mezzo soprano, and then started singing opera after I was done with a master's in my late 20s. What happened to me was something I didn't expect, that my voice started opening up and growing up, and suddenly I tried some Wagner, and it was exactly right for the instrument. And when the instrument found the sound that music needed, then I was done. That's it. I was done. I was going to sing opera. That was it. I mean, I've had a little bit of experience. You were joking that I could be the next Barbara Streisand. I don't think so, but I did enjoy singing classical American pop songs and did a couple of programs back in the day. And it would have been more Rosemary Clooney-ish, I think, or maybe Judy Garland, which I dote on. I can't get enough. But once my voice could sing opera, that was that for me. And I had to learn more about it, and I had to explore more. But I was a late maturer, as Noah was saying. I was 32 before I started any dramatic soprano repertoire, and that's typical of that voice type. So, but that was it for me.
That was it for you. Okay, great. Anthony?
For me, it was, well, I just love it. I enjoy it. That's the main thing. But the thing that really got me into it was my freshman year at Mizzou. I covered the Lucia di Lammermoor sextet. I think Marcus had, Marcus did the main bass part, and then I was covering that part. And as a freshman, I'm looking at this music like, oh my God, like, how do people just sit down and learn this stuff? I don't get it. But hearing that sextet, oh my goodness, it is just stunning. And that, and hearing those moments between the bass and the tenor at the very end, I was blown away. And I was like, I need to keep doing this, not only because it sounds great, it looks cool, but I truly do love it. And it's I think fruits, you talked about fruits, and musical theater and opera are apples and oranges to me. They're a fruit, like same deal, art form, just back in the day, just back there. So to me, if I was an audience member listening to some of this stuff, I would truly be jamming out, because it is, there are some moments that are just incredible, breathtaking. And so, yeah.
That's great. And how many awards have you won at this point, Anthony? Go ahead and tell us. Because we know.
3, yes. Having fun, having a blast,
We're all very proud. Noah, why classical music? Why opera, actually?
Bravo, Anthony. Bravo. Keep going. Keep going. And brava, Christine. Why opera? I chose opera specifically. I love being on stage. Musical theater was my first intro to music. I remember my first solo was Moon River, and it was a tribute to Audrey Hepburn, and it was at the Waldorf Astoria. And I remember getting on stage and singing, and I didn't come in because I had such stage fright. But I remember feeling this electricity of being on stage, and I liked it. I like the attention. If I'm going to be so egotistical, and I liked the attention, and I had fun. And I liked language, and I liked singing. So I thought, okay, and I liked acting. So language, Italian plus acting plus being on stage. Why not opera? And talk about visualization. I just kind of visualized it, and things just started coming to me. And I did my first opera when I think was, I don't know, 12 or 13 years old. But I chose opera specifically because it was one moment that happened. I remember like it was yesterday. I was sitting in the vocal arts office at LaGuardia High School, and I was watching the Laserdisc, those huge CDs that are no longer available. And it was Verdi's Requiem, and Leontine Price was the soprano soloist. And so for a young kid, I saw this Black woman, 4 or 3 European soloists, over 100 European chorus members, an orchestra of 75 members. I think it took place at La Scala, if I'm not mistaken, or it was Vienna. But she was the only Black, she was the only brown face that I saw on this record. And she wasn't using her music. She looked amazing, and she had command of the space. And I said, that is what I want to do. And I just held on to that dream and that focus. And the journey has been very tough, and we can get into it later. And it still is. There are many, many challenges still, if I may be perfectly honest. But and I later that year I met Leontine Price, and I said, Miss Price, I want to become a great opera singer. And she said, you must go to Juilliard. That's what you must do. I was in New York. I went to Juilliard because I was a mama's boy, and I wanted to stay in New York City. I knew nothing about Juilliard. But that was, and the last thing she said to me was, give him hell. And that's what I've been doing ever since. You know, I do this not for me. I do this for Anthony. I do this for you. I do it for anyone who is not the default vision of a traditional position that someone has held. Mm-hmm. Really. For instance, I'm doing West Side Story. It will be someone's first West Side Story experience, and there's a Black Tony. Mm-hmm. And I've done it just because I want to prove to people that it doesn't matter the color of your skin. Mm-hmm. Love is love. Mm-hmm. Passion is passion. Mm-hmm. And if you have the audience comes to feel and to escape reality, and if I can bridge that gap, then I think everyone is given a great gift.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you all. We will get to those challenges. I definitely want to get there. We can't have a program on race and opera and not talk about the challenges that are signaled in the fact that we can call maybe 20 big names in opera over the last few years, and that's too few. But before we do that, we've talked about this award-winning Anthony Blatter. So I think we deserve to actually see what this looks like. So I'm going to share my screen again and show you a video. I have 2 that are ready. One, the sound wasn't great. So let me try. Hold on. Where is it? All right, let's try this one.
And I will be performing Aprite un poco gli occhi from Le Nozze Figaro by Mozart. tutto è disposto, l'ora dovrebbe essere vicina. Io sento gente ed essa non è alcun. Buia la notte ed io comincio mai a fare il scimunito, un mestiere di marito ingrata. Nel momento della mia cerimonia e godevo leggendo, e nel vederlo io ridevo di me senza saperlo. Oh, Susanna, Susanna, quanta pena mi costi con quell'ingenua faccia, con quegli occhi innocenti. Chi creduto l'avria? Ah, che il fidarsi a donna è ognor follia. Aprite un po' quegli occhi, uomini incauti e sciocchi, guardate queste femmine, guardate cosa son, guardate cosa son, guardate cosa son. Queste chiamate agli innannati sensi, a cui tributa incensi la debole ragion, la debole ragion, la debole ragion. Son streghe che incantano per farci plenar, sirene che incantano per farci affogar, sirete che letano per trachi le piume, corete che brillano per droghe e pigliume. Son nose spinose, son more pivezzose, son orse benigne, colombe maligne, ma io si ingani, amiche le fani che fingono, mettono amori, non sento pietà, non sento pietà, no, 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 no. Il resto non lo dico, già ognuno lo sa. Aprite un po' quegli occhi, uomini incauti e sciocchi, guardate queste femmine, guardate cosa son, cosa son, cosa son. Son streghe che incantano, il resto non le dico, si vede che cantano, il resto non le dico, si vede che letano, il resto non le dico, commete che brillano, il resto non le dico. Sono borse spinose, sono buone pivezzose, sono borse benigne, colombe malline, ma io se ne ingani, amiche dei fari che fingono, mettono amore, non sento pietà, non sento pietà, no, 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 no. Il resto non le dico, già ognuno lo sa. Il resto non le dico, già ognuno lo sa. Già ognuno lo sa. Già ognuno lo sa, già ognuno lo sa.
Bravo, bravo.
Thank you.
Respond, please, Noah. What is he not doing right? What is he doing right?
No, bravo. It's all there. Listen, how old are you? If I may ask.
23.
Oh my God. Oh yeah. It's all there. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. It's all there. It's all there. Keep it, keep it up. Keep it up. It's all there.
Christine, how proud are you?
Well, I'm very proud, and I'm also really thrilled that we were able to give Anthony the opportunity to sing his first Figaro this spring with an orchestra on stage, in costume, with all the character drawn, because he should be a singer who sings Figaro for the next 40 years. This should be one of his big roles.
Absolutely.
And now he's got a start on it. He's gone through all the text. He's done, we took some cuts because we're mostly an undergraduate opera company here, but you know, he's got a foundation for this role now that he can take forward, and he should be one of the great Figaros coming. He's got you could see the text shaping that, and his take on the character. And, you know, we love this Figaro. We know how mad he is. We know what a dupe he's been for this girl. I mean, it's all there in that aria. So there you go. Congratulations, Anthony.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Thank you so much, both of you.
So,
Congratulations.
yes, absolutely. So, so as Christine said, you know, Anthony is going to be singing this for 40 years, right? And Noah sings what he's going to be singing for the next many years. But I do want to come back to this idea, and we'll start taking questions from the audience very soon, I promise. I just have so many questions for this group here. Why do we have so few African Americans who get this opportunity? You know, we can, of course, Leontine Price, who was one of very few at her time. We had Marian Anderson, we had Jessie Norman, my personal favorite, Camilla Williams. I just talked about William Warfield, Roland Hayes. I mean, there are names, but those names are few. And can we talk about the fact that we still have very few African Americans in opera, in classes like the ones that Christine teaches, in our incoming classes? Noah, could you speak to, let's start with you, in your journey. How many Black people have you seen next to you on stage, and so on?
Well, you know, people of color, God didn't stop inventing, didn't stop making great athletes or doctors or lawyers, or the issue is money. One of the issues is money. Another issue is support. If you look at, and during the pandemic, or not too many years ago, I started delving a little bit into the history of, you can say, the Black divas, because Black women in opera have always been admired. And Leontine Price, Marian Anderson, Camilla Williams, Jessie Norman, Shirley Verrett, Grace Bumbry, Rary Grist. But if you look closer, the people who have kind of brought them along or introduced them to the public have always been white men, if I'm being bluntly honest. And it's Herbert von Karajan, the great Austrian conductor, took Leontine Price everywhere. He loved Leontine Price. He loved her. He was obsessed with her voice. And Leontine Price had, for me, one of the best voices of all time. But he was the one who said, I want Leontine to do the magic flute. I want her to do Don Giovanni. I want her to do Aida. And so the conductor, the people of positions of power, they're the ones who really control the market, the conductors and the directors. And as artists, we have to go out and we get jobs, we have management, we have agents, and we must audition for roles. It's very important to have a manager who has the connections to introduce us to the big houses or the producers who produce these works. And if we don't have someone helping us, it's not what you know, it's sometimes who you know. And if you don't have friends in high places, or just like in any industry, you know, they would say, you know, some of the best kind of business deals are made on the golf course and not in an office. So you have to have someone inside, but as well, you have to have the goods, because I do think that opportunities do present themselves, but we have to also be ready. And a lot of singers of color that I have, a lot of my colleagues, and I've been very blessed and very, very lucky to have, for me, I feel like I've not done anything to achieve any of this. God gave me a voice, and I've done it. Yes, I've worked hard, but I think a lot of people do. So I don't take any credit for it. But I was always curious, and I always asked a lot of questions, and I always asked why, because as artists, you get a lot of no's if you go on an audition. If you have maybe 50 auditions, you'll get maybe 2 yeses out of the 50. And so I always asked my manager or asked whoever got me the audition, I said, why? Why didn't I get it? And many people won't tell you why. And it bothered me. And so I made it my business to go to the library and listen to French tenors, African-American tenors, Russian tenors, Jewish tenors. I needed to find a consistency of what made great great, because this word great, and we're seeing it a lot online. And since we've spent 2 years with inside in the pandemic, I've been seeing the lots of video clips of certain artists and saying great soprano, great tenor, but there haven't been many brown faces. And that, for me, that bothers me, because it's showing that great only exists in a specific mold, and that's not true. And that discourages many people, not just African Americans, but just anyone. No, if you have a certain body type or a certain height, if you only wear glasses, and you say that's great. And so the career is very intimidating. Long ago, I remember there are certain houses where if you didn't speak Italian or French, they look at you, oh, you don't speak different languages? Oh, wow. I'm like, well, yes, I'm studying Italian, but I'm from New York City. I'm not from Italy. There's certain challenges that we all face, but I don't view that as a knock. It's most, me being from Harlem has helped me, has opened doors for me, because I haven't had to be compared to Luciano Pavarotti, because I'm not from Modena. I'm not from Italy. And it is hard, but being excellent is the way forward. And we must continue to encourage each other. That's the most important part.
To your point, Noah, about money, I think another main thing that is missing is the outreach into schools where Black and brown kids are. I mean, we're not going to Douglas in Columbia. We're not moving and going to Grand Center in St. Louis. We're just not, because the money isn't there. But there's so many kids that want to hear this sort of stuff, but don't have the opportunity to. So if you don't have the opportunity to, you're not going to go to a university for it. If you're not going to go to the university for it, you're not going to be in the choirs, you're not going to be in the operas, so you're not going to see the faces. It's a very large domino effect that happens. Just to have a face go into a classroom and say, hey, how cool is this music? Just to listen to it, doesn't matter. But because the money is not in those schools, we're not going there. Why? It doesn't make any sense. It blows me away to see, to walk into choir class and it's me and maybe 2 other people who look like me. And that shouldn't be the case, because we should as a school want any and everybody who wants to sing music and do music, but because it's up here and we're looking down, right? We don't want to reach our hands out and pull people up, and I don't understand that. But yeah.
But also, isn't it also about fear? Because anything, I remember the first time I saw an opera singer, her name was Miss Cowie, and she was a substitute teacher at my junior high school, and she sang and people laughed. And it's the tendency of, if something is foreign, if it's something that you're not familiar with, you laugh or you make fun. And I'm not sure if it's a universal thing. Well, it is a universal thing. Yeah, it is. And there is a certain shame that one feels when you are made fun of, and so you don't share. And education is is, as Anthony said, education is the way forward. When I was in high school, they had an African-American bass came and he sang an excerpt of Rigoletto. And I thought, wow, so it was not new for me to see this thing of a Black person singing opera. You get used to it. It's like seeing Kamala Harris as the vice president. If someone else runs for the presidency, we won't make a big deal of a Black woman, of a Black running for vice, because Kamala Harris has already set the precedent.
Right.
So it is about exposure, and it's also, having parents, because we can't put so much responsibility also on teachers. It's also up to parents of public television, also showing the broader scope of people and what their abilities are. Because it only takes one time for a child to see themselves on TV.
Christine, over the years, you've had a number of African-American students, but certainly a much smaller number than your white students, right? So
yeah, it has really depended on the population in the school where I'm teaching. I was thinking about that this morning. One of my previous college teaching jobs was in Las Vegas at University of Nevada, Las Vegas. And I did a production of La Boheme there that had double cast, 2 African-American mimis, one Musetta that was Korean-American. One of my Rodolfos was African-American. There were just more folks that were African-American and from other cultural backgrounds in that university population. I buy into what Anthony is saying a lot, that recruiting students from.
Christine, I think you are frozen. Okay, Christine, let's see if we can get you unfrozen. Kate and Kelly, can you figure that out? While we're unfreezing Christine, we can keep the conversation going. Okay, great. So she's back.
Finding now in the opera business that there is and maybe the pandemic helped this along, thank God. There's a new there's a new openness about casting in opera, it seems to me, and I think Noah can maybe speak to this, but the fact that he's doing all those Don Josés is very impressive. It's very impressive. It used to be you had to look like you were from Seville, Spain to sing that role, right? And the kind of typecasting in terms of body type and physical type, that happened to me a lot too. Look at me, I'm very, very light skinned. I've got red hair. I was auditioning for Tosca and somebody looked at me and said, I can't cast you as Tosca. I was like, you can't put a wig on my head, but I wasn't dark enough for them. I didn't have the right physical attributes. I think that kind of attitude is changing a lot now. And I can't wait, for there to be those barriers be gone.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think this is a very exciting time. I have not seen as many brown faces in opera. There's a new generation that has come up, and I think the Black Lives Matter movement had definitely helped propel that, because we've been having discussions more than any time in my history. And the movie, I can't think of the movie now, Wakanda Forever. What is the Black Panther changed everything. Because I remember seeing an interview and they said, a Black superhero movie will never sell. But it broke all those records in terms of box office. The West Side Story, which I'm doing in Opera San Jose, is the first production of the musical theater production in the company's history. And the shows have been virtually sold out.
Wow.
And when I was telling people, they said, no, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to do Tony. They looked at me kind of like, you're really going to do Tony? And I was a bit nervous because even though I've played European roles before, West Side Story takes place in New York City. The Steven Spielberg movie just came out. I know it was very successful. There was a feeling of, what will the critics say? There was an undertone of that, but I had to tell myself, no, you must play the character. Yes, he is supposed to be Polish, absolutely, but he's a person who loves life and he falls in love. You know what I know what that feels like, to fall in love. Mm-hmm. And I think the audience will get it, and they have. So it proves that it can be done. It's a new time. Broadway, I also broke a lot of records in terms of seeing Black producers. The shows, right now, the shows starring African Americans, the Tina Turner musical, which I saw, which is fabulous. The Michael Jackson musical, which people are saying is one of the best things on Broadway. There's Hadestown. There's so much going on. And I hate to say it, but once the box office responds, other people do respond as well.
Right.
And that is the spearhead, and the talent is there.
Mm-hmm. Great. So much to unpack there in terms of the money, the support. I know many of the big names that we've talked about, from Leontine to Marian Anderson to Jesse Norman, they had to have their communities contribute money to pay for a teacher, right? And they would not have gotten there otherwise. So the community has really had a big impact. The Black community loves, these stories of their kids going places in this way. So questions, if you have a question, Paul, I see you. Your hand is up. Go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Well, can you hear me okay? Okay. I'm just building on what Anthony said about schools, about exposure to opera and the arts in schools with a large Black population in the student body. I'm interested in what Noah thinks about this. I taught at High School of Music and Art when it was at 133rd and Convent. And you said that you're from Harlem and that you went to LaGuardia. And when I was there at High School of Music and Art, there was a very high population, percentage of the population were students of color. And of course, it was a great school, and there were great faculty, and the kids were, completely uninhibited about doing things, and there was no concern really, there was very little. There's the usual stratum of people who get stage fright or nervous about performing and so on, but people were very comfortable. Everybody, all the students were comfortable with each other and with their performing. Though it was tough because it was in some of the kids had harrowing stories about getting to the school every day. But they were about to open LaGuardia. So it was one of the last years that High School of Music and Art was there. And I'm wondering how you felt. I never set foot in LaGuardia because I was done and I moved away. But I'm wondering how that was, if you can imagine how it compared in terms of the population of students who were at LaGuardia.
My experience, thank you for that. I grew up not very far from there, from one bit. I grew up like a block away.
Yeah.
My high school experience was one of the most gratifying, amazing experiences. LaGuardia High School is also the fame, I want to live forever.
Yeah, I know.
So there were kids, there were instrumentalists practicing their violin in the stairway. There were actors practicing Shakespeare. So for me, it was a very free environment and we were just with the ages of, I'm going to say 16 through, you're kind of questioning who you are. You're finding out who you really are. So it was a very freeing time. For me, the challenging aspect was when I went to conservatory, when I went to Juilliard, and that's 17 to 21, because it's no longer this kind of public, free, talented environment. It's very competitive. There are not lots of faces. There were many talented Black people in Juilliard, but it's not so much that. Well, there are two things. It's who's getting the leading roles at these conservatories and colleges, because when I was there, African American men didn't get those roles. I created my own opportunities outside of Juilliard, because at that time I was still in between baritone and tenor. They really didn't know what to do with me. I was also shy and very, very intimidated. And so I sang in church choirs as a ringer to develop my voice and to kind of develop my confidence. But in my opinion, the ages from 21 to 35 are the most, or you can say 21 and 32 are the most important for a young professional singer, a classical singer, because those are the years after you graduate and before you make your professional career. Those are the real crux. Because we talk about money, to give you a certain a number, back then, a voice lesson for an hour was $125 per hour for a voice lesson. In my opinion, to really show progress, one would need at least 2 voice lessons per week. You would also need a coach, as Christine talked about. So a voice teacher is someone who you go into, if you have not taken a professional voice lesson, you go into a voice lesson and your teacher will give you some exercises, and you go in, there's a piano and la 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 la, and they're aligning your voice and they're going through your range, and you do a whole to get your voice stretched out. But your coach is someone who works on style, language, and they outline what you're good at. But your teacher helps you with your technique, so you'll be able to hit those really, really high notes safely, and you're on your body, because everyone's body is different. It's all about coordination. And so when you look at the cost of that, you have $125 times 2, plus a coach, which is maybe $80. There are not many young kids, young professionals, not even adults, who could afford that. So already you are excluding not only Black singers, but you're excluding my white colleagues who are equally as wonderful. They have a hard time paying that as well. So the need to be a classical musician has to override the cost. And most people are not willing to do that because it's simply very difficult, if I may be perfectly honest with you. Only a crazy person would pursue a career in music. But you know what? But the thing about it, Anthony, if I told you not to, you would still do it because you love it. And that's anything in life, right? You must go after your passion. And but it is quite challenging. But I think anything in life is challenging if you want to succeed.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Noah. Let's go to Sam. Do you have your hand up? I know that David has his hand up, but you unmuted your video, Sam. So I'm assuming that you have a question.
Yes, I didn't mean to, but I would love to ask a question.
Great.
Can you hear me okay?
David, I think that's okay.
Okay, great. Hi, Noah. My name is Sam. Just to tell you a little about myself quickly. I'm a sophomore at Mizzou. I study voice with Professor Seitz, actually, and have the privilege of getting to sing with Anthony as well, and great respect for Dr. Shawnahan too. So this has been wonderful. So thank you all. Just quickly, a little bit about Mizzou as well. I feel very fortunate in the 2 years that I've been here. Certainly, there's a lot of progress left to be made here, but there have been these ongoing conversations about how to make our music education inclusive of all of the people of color, both artists and composers that have been doing great work for all of time. So just before this presentation, I was doing a theory assignment on a Roman numeral analysis of a Florence Price art song, which as we should be. So anyway, just to kind of include that. But the question that I want to ask you, I'm curious, as a young tenor myself and kind of going through the process of really like figuring out the voice, I guess, if you will, and both in the sense of musically and also kind of the emotional and just very personal connection that is and that singing is. I'm wondering, kind of as you were saying, with all of these different prejudices that are in the opera business, whether that like certainly is race or body type or sexuality or gender or any of these other number of things. I'm just wondering if you might have any like advice to share with younger singers or relatively younger singers. We talked about like the voice is a long process to maybe like have that process faster or just more more like healthy way of like finding the voice in both of the senses.
What is your name? Can you repeat your name? My video cut off.
Yeah, sorry, it's Sam.
Sam, congratulations, fellow tenore. Thank you for your question. Be yourself. You know, my mom, who's in this room, maybe we'll meet her later, she always encouraged me to be myself. It is your calling card. Because the word love, amore, if you sing it in Italian, the way I sing amore, if I think amore, love, it'll come up, amore, amore, amore. There are many versions of it. If you sing amore, it'll be totally different from me because it comes from you. One of my really wonderful teachers, her name was Beverly Peck Johnson, and she was the voice teacher of the great soprano Renee Fleming when she was at Juilliard. Beverly, her philosophy was she was unlike any teacher. She said, Noah, it's about you and what you want to express. Go to the library, you pick out any song you want to sing, and we'll work on it. She said, go to the library, look at the poetry, listen to it. What speaks to you? And those feelings of, if you listen to a song, or if you go to an event and you hear a song and it gives you goosebumps, that tells me that the song is I respond to the song and I must sing it. And it took me, I would go to the library if I was preparing a recital, I would listen to maybe 40, 50 songs. And of that day, I'll pick maybe 5. And I would go through the poetry and think, wow, I really love this. And live with it. These things take time. There's no rush. I'm 43 years old and my voice is just now starting to mature. You have plenty of time. Sing opera, sing musical theater, sing jazz, sing it all. Because if you look at Sarah Vaughan could have easily have been an opera singer, but she went that. Nina Simone wanted to be a classical pianist, but she made her mark doing something else. Listen to your soul. And surround yourself with people who love you and appreciate you and are mirrors for you. Because there's artists we're wonderful, but we can also sometimes it's a very competitive industry as I once said. So sometimes they won't say, Sam, you sound wonderful, but surround yourself with people, a team, we would say, who can support you and give you the tools, because we need tools to help support what you want to say, because it's about you. Be a sponge, ask questions, and don't be afraid, because I think sometimes when you are in the school setting, it can be quite intimidating not knowing, but that's a part of it. You only find out by asking why and how, and can you help me? Or can you stay after school? Because I've been very fortunate. I was very fortunate because I asked, I was just brave enough to say, can you help me a little bit more? Can I email you? Can you send me? And listen, if I can help anyway, I'll give you my email and I'll email songs if you have any questions, because it's a brotherhood. We're all in a sisterhood. We're all artists. We're a community, and that's what it should be about.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thanks, Sam. Great question. David, your question?
Yes. So as always, and this has been fantastic, and I hope we do get to see your mom, Miss Pat, down the hall neighbor, at least a brief appearance at some point in that. The other piece, of course, is that I know where you grew up. We grew up in the same place, and I knew that you had to travel between 2 different worlds fundamentally. There she is.
There she is.
Hey. It's so good to see you. So good to see you.
Beautiful.
We grew up in the same places, right? You went to an art school and I went to an independent school, but you had to sort of navigate 2 different worlds, right? You had to go one place and where you engaged in this art form that was really not part of sort of the cultural experience of being Black in New York City in that space, and then having to come back to that space, right? And so the question I would throw out there is, how do you sort of navigate that potential cognitive dissonance of having to cross these 2 worlds, maintaining your identity and keeping your passion about what you really wanted to do while still being your authentic self in both spaces?
Wow, that is a fantastic question, Professor. That is a fantastic question. One of the most challenging aspects have been for me is and it's not only an artist, I think if any, when you reach a certain level, is people, but especially artists, people sometimes want, how could I say this? You have a hard time living up to what people want you to be. When I was at Juilliard and after Juilliard, also, can I go back a little bit? My road wasn't always easy. After Juilliard, I did not go to grad school because I was burnt out. I didn't feel supported and I needed a break. And I worked in a restaurant. I worked at Bloomingdale's. I worked at Macy's. I worked at Diesel. You too, Christine.
I worked at Bloomingdale's for 12 years. That was my job while I was trying to be a singer. Yeah.
Right?
Right, go on.
It's a part of it because you learn who you are in the world before you are successful, whatever that means. Because once you're successful, people leave you alone, which is so strange to me. You know, when I went over to the UK and went over to Europe, which a lot of singers, not only Black singers, but also white singers and Asian singers, they go to Europe, you get your street cred, and you come back to America and made a splash. When I came back to America, people were like, "Oh my God, Noah, what happened? What did you do?" But I didn't do anything. But you didn't appreciate me when I was here. I have still to this day, when I do travel to Europe, there's a feeling I'm appreciated. When I step on the plane to go across the Atlantic, the treatment is completely different. You would not believe it. And coming back to America was very difficult for me because I didn't feel like I was treated with the same respect. I had to prove myself all over again and navigate that space. The people who once made fun of me now asked me to do parties and to kind of go into the other spaces, and it was difficult because I knew what it was to have been put down, and now I'm hailed as a hero. But it's not about me. It's about encouraging others. And now in this stage of my life, I want to teach later, a little bit later, because I'm still performing, and I think to be a teacher, it's all about the kids, and you have to be dedicated. I don't have the time yet to do that, but I've been blessed to have had many experiences and been in many rooms that other people have not been given the opportunities, and I want to give back as much as I can for not for $1 million, because it shouldn't be. Anyone should be helped if they want to learn. Education shouldn't be so lofty, and it's also quite. In schools, tuitions are also, and I have a problem with. I hope I'm not kind of stepping on anyone's toes. I have a problem with tuition prices in this country. There should be a sliding scale of money compared to the amount of positions that are available once you leave school. We're producing opera singers at a tremendous rate, yet opera companies are closing. And we have to also acknowledge that and be honest to our kids, because a lot of students they burn out and they don't feel supported once they do take out the loans, and once they do leave conservatory, they don't feel that they have the resources that will enable them to carry on in this. And we have to be honest. We have to be, because if we want to be strong as a nation, we must help and lift each other up and be honest.
There's such a conversation that we can have about Europe versus the United States. And there are lots of artists, African-American artists over the 20th century who found a better reception in Europe than in the United States. And again, it is about the construction of race and racism in the country. And it's sad to hear you say that, Noah, that it's still a feeling that that exists. Miss Pat, if we could get you to say a word or two, what's it been like?
It's been a journey. It's been very exciting. I'm like over in Europe. It's like I'm the mother of this rock star. So I had a long line of signing autographs. But it's been fun, but there are rocky parts also in it, and it's like you said, it's so sad. Why should he have to go abroad to get the respect? Why can't he get it here? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And you look, you know the dedication and the work that they put into their craft, and it should be appreciated, and it shouldn't be discriminated. And give me my worth.
Amen. Yeah.
You see, if I put the work in, give me my worth. And they're not asking for a lot. They're just asking, they put all of this in, so reward me with that.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of there's so many negative in America, negative things that the students have to go through, artists have to go through. And it's in your face, and it's like you can't do anything about it. What you're gonna say, or who you're gonna talk, who you're gonna speak to. They need someone there. If they have a problem here, it should be a door over here where they could enter and discuss it with someone. They don't have that. You know what I'm saying? And it should be right here in America. They shouldn't have to go abroad to get it.
Yeah. Thanks, Ms. Pat. That is you're exactly right. And as a mom myself, I know how difficult that is to see your child have to go through it. But the flip side is that you do get to be a mother of a rock star, which I am not.
Well, I'm a son of a rock star. Can I say that I would not be who I am? I would not be here if it wasn't for the sacrifice that she has been. Every performance that I have, she's there. I'm in California and she's there. And that
I have to thank my boss, David, because he was there for Noah.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
When they were young. Yes. He's
okay. So I have just a few more minutes, and I do not want to end without at least talking for 2 minutes about the spirituals, because over the years, over the centuries, the spirituals have endured. And they are always, every program I've been to with a Black artist has included at least one spiritual, whether it's classical or art music, they include a spiritual. So I'm going to share my screen for 1 minute. I'll get you guys out of here at 6, but indulge me. Let me share one more example of Noah's incredible range in this spiritual. I think, let's try. All right. So I'm not going to play the whole thing, but just a little piece of it.
So faith is, and why I was sent here to do what I do, and that is to share my gift with the world.
Just gorgeous, Noah. So can you each give me a 1 minute little nutshell of why the spirituals are important for all of our students? Let's start with Christine, and then Anthony, and then Noah.
I have to say, in my experience as a performer and as an audience member, that the amount of personal, heartfelt relationship to the singing that comes through singing a spiritual is unlike anything else.
Amen. Mhm.
Just unlike anything else. I've sung a number of them myself and always feel transported.
Mhm.
And I feel when I hear somebody like Noah singing something like that, you just feel like it puts you on a different plane where you understand a deeper thing about humanity.
Mhm. Thanks.
It's just thrilling.
Yeah. Anthony?
The Holy Ghost and emotions.
Mhm.
I just that's it for me.
Mhm.
Singing spirituals is just it's such an emotional thing to do, and it can be taxing in a way emotionally, because you're truly laying yourself out and saying, audience, hear me.
Mhm.
And that is that's the joy of it, in just the room is filled with that spirit.
Mhm.
And yeah, there's nothing like it.
Noah?
It's the story, it's just, we know the story. And I think it's not just Black singers, I think folk songs, it could be rock and roll. It's the songs that you heard when you were a kid. It's the songs that your grandmother or your mom or you heard at the corner. Those are the simplicity of it, and you just connect with it. Just like I encouraged the student early on, you pick a song that has meaning to you, and you bring that into everything else.
Mhm.
I think that's the key.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the spirituals are a great way to end this program because the spirituals are at the very center of African American history and indeed American history, right? So I always say that African Americans, as Du Bois told us, are double conscious. So their music is not just Black, it's also American. And so why wouldn't a Noah or an Anthony be made to feel comfortable in this tradition that is theirs as well, right? So with that, I just wanted to, I'll say thank you real quick, and then I'll hand it back to my co-director and partner in crime, David Mitchell. So thank you, Noah, Anthony, and Christine, for saying yes to our invitation. I want to also thank Kate Kelly, Kelly Buckheit, Nathan Hurst, and Jen Horton, among others on our team who helped the Middleton Center run. And again, thank you. Back to you, David.
So we have certainly ended another, I think, fantastic Middleton Center panel. And I just want to say, there's family which you're born into by blood and family which you're born into by circumstances. And so Miss Pat and Noah are family by circumstances, just by the accident of us living in the same space. And I am so very thrilled that he accepted my invitation, did not hold the soccer experience against me, actually accepted my email to actually be a part of this presentation, because it is so heartwarming. It is so heartwarming and so overwhelming to see your success and to see the impact that you are having. And I am just so very proud and so very thankful for the gift that you have and you've been able to sort of bestow on the rest of us. So thank you so very much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And thank you for setting such a great example.
Oh,
Because I remember as a kid always seeing you studying and volunteering and going above and beyond. So thank you for that, for being such an inspiration to me.
Well, owing allegiance to great moms. My mom, the exact same way, and my stepdad.
You're still my boss.
Now, on another note, so great panel or whatever, but today is a bittersweet day. Yeah. This is the last event for the spring, wow. But it's also the last event for my co-director, who is leaving us once again to assume the deanship at the University of Maryland. She left once before, we got her back, we thought we were keeping her, and then she's like, I'm out, people, I'm going off to Maryland, right? But we wish her, of course, all the best. She is a tour de force, she is a presence, she will change the world there at University of Maryland, and we wish her all the best for being a part of this. And I, as a colleague and as a friend and as a co-director, could not have asked for a better partner to begin this Middleton Center journey for the last 2 years than Stephanie Sean.
Thank you very much, David. And the Middleton Center will continue to live on as David takes on the mantle or continues to take on the mantle of leadership for the center. We also want to say thank you to Michael Middleton, who I think was in the room earlier. He has been so gracious as to let us call this center after him. So again, thank you, everyone. Noah, we'll be in touch. We want you on our campuses, please.
Yes. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work.
Absolutely. God bless. Have a good night, everyone. Take care.
Thank you all.
Bye.